Sex Talk with Erica Miley. 'Cause sexuality is tough. And okay, sex just isn't good enough. No. Sex Talk with Erica Miley.
Hey folks, welcome to Sex Talk with Erica Miley. Erica Miley here. Y'all, I really love to feature businesses that I think are doing really cool shit. So I have a wonderful human being. Searah Deysach is a sex educator and owner of a feminist sex shop called Early to Bed. Searah, did I get the name right or did I screw it up?
No, that's right.
Okay, good. Welcome, Searah. So glad you are here. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I've been all over your shop site. It really did strike me the combination of toys, but also equipment options and the pelvic floor health options. But the descriptions were thorough. I was really struck by, I could really see that a sex educator had their hands in this. And that's what really, as somebody who has a lot of people I care about as far as my listeners go, I really want to point them in directions where they can get more information. So can you talk about what it has been like to really shift the paradigm and try to educate folks while also providing them accessories for their sex lives?
Sure, happy to. So we just celebrated our 20th anniversary. So I have been doing this, thank you, since 2001, when the landscape of what a sex toy store was very different than what it is now. I mean, if you can remember that long ago, this is before a lot of online shopping.
Oh yeah. Castle warehouse stuff, right?
Yes. Big, I wouldn't call them big box, I guess, but like most of the sex toy stores were chains or mom and pop shops that were not designed to educate. They were not designed to make sex this approachable, fun thing.
Right.
They were designed for a very specific clientele. For the most part, you had either your gay man-oriented stores or your quote-unquote mainstream stores that were very much focused on a cisgendered heterosexual man purchasing products for himself or his partner, who would be a cisgendered heterosexual woman. Obviously, there's variations in there and whatnot, but that was kind of the overall industry. And I, as a sex toy consumer, was feeling very left out. I'm a queer woman. I had lots of questions. I wanted to walk into a store and have somebody explain things to me and also not make me feel like a pervert. You know, I mean, there's a time and a place for feeling like a pervert. You know, we had our moments, but I really wanted to feel supported and encouraged in a sexual exploration as opposed to like, I don't know, whatever, you know, like I'm eating nachos, don't bother me kind of attitude I got from, it was one time someone was eating nachos while I was trying to buy a vibrator and it really was
I could hear a story horrific. In that. Like, I feel like I heard there was a specific memory. There's probably a smell associated with the story you're talking about.
And I love nachos, but you know, it was not a good combo. So I really wanted to create the space that I wanted to shop in. I wanted people to walk in, have a friendly face, have somebody who knew about the toys, who could explain how things work, who would allow, it was pretty innovative for us to put testers out, which we did right away. Packaging in the back room, testers out, don't let so that packaging didn't interfere with people's experience, but also so that you could touch a vibrator before you bought it home. Because you know, you can look at everything, but it doesn't have the same experience as touching it. So
the materials matter a lot, depending on what you're going through sexually. I've worked with people who've been through cancer. I've worked with people who have more sensitive skin or sensory issues. And what you're talking about is a really important feature of being able to go in somewhere if you're not going to buy something online, but be able to go, you know, I want to touch it so that I know that it's something that I can use.
Exactly. And what does the power feel like? And what does the shape feel like? Obviously, we sell stuff online. And then when we started our website, which was a couple of years after we opened the store, very short-sighted on my part, but whatever. This whole web thing's not going to take off.
There was a time. There was a time.
we were all young ones. I really, one of the things I wanted to do was to go beyond what the manufacturer would say about a product. So we do use a lot of the manufacturer's information because it's easy to copy and paste that nowadays. But I also want everything to kind of have our interpretation or our information about it, because I do think it's important to kind of go a little bit, at least, beyond what the general description of a product is. And we are very honest about stuff too. And that has been from day one. I am the first person to talk you out of $100 vibrator and into a $15 vibrator, because I feel like that's the right vibrator for you.
Yes.
It's also why I don't work on the sales floor very much anymore. But my staff does the same thing. Like the staff does the same thing. The whole idea is that we are a for-profit company. That's just, it's the nature of our system.
We live in the capitalism.
We live in a capitalist system. But I try so hard to be not driven by profit, that I'm so much more concerned about, someone getting the right sex toy as opposed to the most expensive sex toy. And I think that's part of why we've survived for so long in this. It's been a chaotic 20 years. If we opened right before September 11th, and there's 2008 or 9 situation and COVID and all these things. But I think that people trust us because we have really worked to take a very individualized approach to what each person who walks through the door needs. And that, I think a lot of that kind of ties into my feminist values and my idea that, yes, we're making money, but people over profits or whatever.
I mean, what do you mean? You can create a business around your deepest health values rather than just look at that dollar sign. Yeah. I mean, I say that with sarcasm, but you're saying something so incredibly important. That what does it mean when you create something that is really with that person in mind, but also from, like, can I go to bed at night knowing that I did everything I could so that person could have a good experience and have an experience that isn't really, especially for those of us who have experienced many consent breaking, many boundary crosses when it comes to our bodies. Having somebody take the time, even in a product description, to say, hey, you need to know what you're getting into here. And when I was reading the product descriptions, that's what I was struck by. It wasn't just the manufacturer's information. It was like, no, this is how this toy looks. This is how it might feel. And it's not encoded language either that is just marketing based for sensuality, right? Like it's not that. It's very much a customer's experience in mind. And I very much appreciated that while I was reading from it. Now, with that idea of creating a feminist-based business, talk to me a little bit about that process early. Like, obviously, like right before 9/11 that you created this business. Talk to me about what did that mean during that period of time and as you started that structure.
Well, right. So the business for the first 2 years was 100% just me. I mean, I had help from friends and stuff like that, but I was the only person in the store. I was the only person helping customers. I was the only person working. And so it was very easy to create, I guess if a store has a persona, but a persona of being a feminist business when the person who's working it and the only person anybody sees is a feminist. And then I think when I first started, I was using that term partially because that was just my value and who I was, but also to signal to people that this is a welcoming space specifically to women as we evolve to, people of all genders, of course, but like people who've been left out of the conversation about their sexuality. And so that has been really important to me. And I think just that I live those values and that those values have expanded as I've hired people and we do more in the community, that we are a welcoming space for all people, regardless of, gender, sexuality, all those things, but also that I interact with my community in a positive way. I feel like, and I think this is true, it's hard to, I don't want to sell myself too hard, but I treat my staff really well. We have a higher pay structure than a normal retail job. I like to create an environment where people are supported. And I think that, to me, that all falls under the idea of feminism, that we are working towards a better collective world and people and all that things, as opposed to being involved in this for my own self-interest. I mean, I know that obviously, again, it is my self-interest, but I think that that's, for me, the sort of the underlying drive with a lot of this. And I use that word feminism, which I know not everybody has the same relationship to that I do. And I appreciate that. And I've examined, is that the right word, over and over again? But for me, that really does feel like the core term that I would use to describe sort of my philosophy if I actually were to have to write it down somewhere.
I think you're hitting on something. You're hitting on something really, I think, important about, like, I can kind of hear this tie from the beginning, like this early part of you being able to do that in the shop itself. When it's just you, like you said, it's kind of easy to embody the whole business when it's just you. But I hear some threads that are kind of coming in the future as you developed that you were able to maybe even extend your identity to the shop. Like, what was that? How did that impact you as a person as you started to extend your identity through essentially a business?
It's a wonderful and weird thing, because I am still very much the face of Early to Bed. I am known in my community for being the owner of Early to Bed. I have a lot of emotional attachment to being the owner of Early to Bed. Like, the thought of having a different job, a lot of people who start businesses, and I know a lot, when you have your own business, you tend to know a lot of other people who have their own businesses. And the idea of selling the business is often like, okay, the goal is to get the business to a place where then I would sell it and make money or something like that. And that's horrifying. That's like the nightmares I have, besides other weird nightmares.
We share this. We share this feeling deeply. Like, I own my own completely online group practice. All the therapists that work for me are well cared for. And we kind of share this value set that you're talking about. And that's why I really wanted to ask you this question, because it is like you are taking your identity and it starts with you, but then when you create a business like this, it is very much wrapped up in your identity. It's your baby, right? Like, you're doing the best you can with your baby. And then to think of selling it to someone else, that's actually a hard thing to even consider when you've wrapped your value system around it.
Absolutely. And then I wouldn't trust anybody else to do it, even though, of course, there's people who work for me who I trust, whatever. But also, I like being the person that's out in the world that I have people come up to and are like, oh my God, I've had so many orgasms from your store. Or, oh my God, I bought my first vibrator. Oh, you talked to my class 5 years ago and I never forgot it. Like, I'm not going to lie. I like being known for what I do. It makes me feel good as a human. It also, as an awkward kid who felt left out of a lot of things growing up, like, I'm not going to argue with people recognizing me, like, it's great. I love it. But I also love that that's what I'm known for. How did I get here is something I often ask myself. And yay that I did, because I think it's really a fun place to be. It's a fun person to be. So I'm not looking to separate myself at any point.
I'm hearing something kind of beautiful there, that the extension of your identity also maybe even, I can't help myself. I'm just going to push on this. Like,
okay.
It maybe helped you heal some old wounds, I'm hearing.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we want to go into therapy time now, but
we'll watch.
Yes, like it definitely has given me a lot of confidence. It has given me a lot of sense of self and direction. I was in art school before I quit to open the store, and I was miserable and directionless. And I had gone to undergrad and I was in graduate school, and I felt like I wasn't, like, there's nothing that I was really actually good at. And I think that I've never had more confidence in what I can do than I do now. Mm-hmm. Not everything, of course, but I think starting something from scratch, not having a clue what I was doing, but also, being at an age where I felt a little isolated from my community. Like there was a lot going on, and it's really nice to have this business give me confidence. It has connected me with so many people. It has made me feel fine. It made me feel popular. Okay. I'm just going to admit it. Like,
well, I think there's something to like having, I definitely understand the feeling of like having been the weird nerdy kid. I was the weird nerdy, like music kid. I was the weird nerdy, like I would always talk about things that I would do deep dives on things that I was really interested in. And all the other teenagers around me was like, that's nerdy. I'm like, okay, I won't talk about that. But like the creation of my own business has done something similar, that it creates this confidence in you that says like, oh, I wasn't wrong. Like I wasn't wrong about all this stuff. And not only that, it's a little deeper than that, or maybe even more deeper than that. But you took your values and you interwove them into this thing that you created, and then people buy shit from you, whether it's your time or services or accessories or what have you. Like there's numerical proof.
Right. Proof isn't the profit. No, that's not true. But it is, and then that more than anything that we've survived. Like I will be like. After Early to Bed opened, there came sort of I don't know if slew is the right word, but there came a bunch of other stores that were women-owned, women-oriented sex stores in the city.
Yeah.
And that was terrifying. And there was some awkwardness, but I'm still here.
Yes.
And not everybody else is. And that is also, it's a terrible feeling from a like, everyone should be able to thrive kind of perspective, which I like to believe in this theory of abundance, but also that I've made it through it all. I've been flexible. I've stuck to my values, and it has worked out for me one way or the other. So that feels good. It feels like, okay, well, maybe now that we're 20 years in, I can start to trust that maybe I have some vague idea of what I'm doing, but
yeah, you definitely have expertise at this point. That's for sure. Absolutely. So I do want to talk a little bit about the availability of products and the availability of products for different genital configurations, because I think my listeners, if you haven't listened to all the episodes, we all have similar parts just in different configurations. So, but on Searah's shop, there's tons of options for different configurations of genitalia. And I just am curious, because you've been doing this seen through various, since 9/11, we've been through lots of crises by this point, How have you seen, as far as options, how has the landscape changed? Do we have more? Is there more flexibility? Like when you're trying to find products to offer, like, are you seeing more options for people?
Absolutely. Like there's been such an evolution in the market and the industry, which comes first, I think very much market driven. And we have evolved so much, especially with how we talk about sex toys, how we talk about gender. I'm not going to lie. When I first opened the store, I was very clear about it being like, this is a woman-oriented store. I would not use that binary language right now. We had a part of the store that had a little sign that said like men's toys, which of course retroactively, I'm like, oh my God, that was so limiting. So I think we were a little bit ahead of the curve on eliminating the gendered language when talking about toys, talking about toys more as like what parts of bodies they work on best, but also, and this has been true from the beginning, always saying like, this is designed for this purpose, that manufacturers had this in mind, but you could also use this on this part of a body or this shaped genitalia or something like. So I think it's always been, sex toys aren't, they're only limited by your imagination and safety concerns. But the industry itself absolutely has evolved to be more inclusive. And also there's a lot of more boutique parts of the industry. So when I first opened the store, there was big manufacturers and a couple little boutique industries. But now there's so many more people who are making sex toys in their garage or whatever. And a lot of those times they are very explicitly, gender neutral or gender free or whatever their language they're using. And I think that has been tremendous. And especially as we have more and more people identifying in different places along the gender spectrum, there's more toys and accessories that are free for, anybody to use in multiple different ways. We also see people co-opt the language. We see people co-opt these ideas. We see people come up with these ideas and you're like, no, that's not what that means, So I'm very cautious about that and, whatever. But there was like a lube that came out that was called Gender Fluid, and it's cute, but it's like, you don't know what people are using the term gender fluid if then your idea is to brand a lube with that, even though lots of people think it's cute and it's actually totally fine lube. But it's like, you're hearing these terms and you're thinking they're cute and then putting it on a bottle without maybe thinking about the implications of how somebody who that's their identity could feel about it. Either great or wait a second, this is weird.
That commodification that I think we've definitely seen, across the queer community in various ways, especially like with pride and the commodification of different kinds of products. So I'm sure that it's just this strange space to have to sit in after seeing very little and then seeing all of the explosion of the different options that are available. But again, like every time I've read any of the descriptions on your site, I see that interwoven sex educator mindset. I can see it. I'm like, oh, like you're giving me suggestions about how this can be used in the various ways that the manufacturer is not even like, maybe didn't even occur to them.
Oh yeah. Well, and then the fact that the manufacturers are still naming things so horribly, like
it's so true.
Like we go back to the womanizer all the time. I mean, womanizer is such a horrible name for a very innovative product that completely changed the whole genre of the industry. And now we're used to it. But when it first came out, I was like, no, I can't carry this product. But I was like, well, I can carry this product with a caveat, we get it. This is a dumbass name. We'd change it if we could. But, and so I think that it's a balance. You want people to know that you have the product they want, but you also want to be sure they know that, we're not necessarily thinking this is a great choice this manufacturer made. And so it's more interesting than it used to be as far as kind of navigating all these different things, because there's so many more options now. I mean, it's kind of insane. And the industry really has opened up in so many different ways, and it's really exciting. And I still love buying sex toys more than anything else in the world. So every day is a joy when I get to, it's a shopping day for me. So. Oh
yeah. All of the unboxing you get to do that has just got to be so much fun.
Even if it ends up being a ridiculously terrible item, there's things too that I'm like, okay, this goes in the so great it's terrible, or so terrible it's great pile, or this is the super exciting new one. Yeah. So it is still, it's like Christmas,
Absolutely.
Every day.
And manufacturers listening, any manufacturer listening, you should absolutely hit up Searah or any one of us that do like sex educator work or sex therapy work, because we can give a pretty good sense of like, hey, we talk to people all day long. Like,
I know.
You missed the mark here.
Oh yeah. You're just like, have you ever seen somebody's body, or do you think anybody wants that language around this? Or, and of course there's people whose interest in sex is or language, all these things is widely vast. Some people want aggressive sounding sex toys, but a lot of people don't want something that's, called the Annihilator or whatever, the case may be. Even if it's a good toy. Most of the time people
rename it as it is anyway. A lot of times the more personal of a name you come up with a sex toy, the better, and the more relationship that's just yours you have.
It's true.
So I am curious about how maybe this has changed your day to day from the beginning to now. Like, I know that you're probably not on the sales floor as much as you used to be. And so how is your day to day different today as it was in the beginning?
It's so much more busy. Oh my God. I mean, I have nostalgia for like, I used to sit in the store and knit dildo cozies.
Oh, that's the best thing I've ever heard.
I had nothing else to do. I don't even remember how to knit. I don't know how I knew how to knit. I couldn't knit if you paid me, but somehow I would make these little dildo cozies, and I would, I would hand silk screen all our gift certificates, and I didn't have a lot to do. And now I have an office away from the store so that I can concentrate, because there's no room for me in the store. And I spend a lot of my time on the, writing stuff for the website, answering emails about collaborations. Like, it's basically sitting at my computer every day. So that's different. And to be perfectly honest, I have a more healthy for me schedule, and I have a child now. I could spend the weekends with my child. I don't work 6.5 days a week. Mm-hmm. So that is really, I feel very fortunate for that. I know that not every small business owner has the privilege of, regular schedule, but, I still, if I'm in the store and someone has a question, I leap to answer it, because I still love helping someone find their first vibrator. I mean, that is the core of my being. If there's one thing I love doing, it's helping someone pick out their first vibrator, or helping solve a dildo mystery. They want this unicorn, or they saw this thing 10 years ago at a festival. I love, because I have a pretty good encyclopedia up here of who, what, and when. So it's, there's things that are still really practical that I enjoy, but I do have the sort of typical managing from afar kind of lifestyle right now, with a giant pile of sex toys behind me at all times that I'm trying to just
it should always be.
It's kind of nuts. It's a little bit nuts, but yeah, it is very different than it was in the beginning. But I would say that I'm really happy where I am, and I really like it. I mean, customer service is great, and I love it, and I think I'm good at it, but it's exhausting, and getting able to just to handle the hardest parts of it is good. And I don't have to do the constant day to day. But
I do want to tap into your encyclopedia, and I think this will probably, this will probably be the biggest question probably from our listeners.
You're gonna try and stump me?
No, absolutely not.
Good. Oh, phew.
That's mean. That's mean. But I would love to know your top 3. I'll take as many as 5 if you've got them.
Okay.
Your top 3 to 5 items that are available now, because of course, I would hate for our people to be listening and be like, that toy's not available anymore. Yeah. I'm very sad about it. And this can include lubricant too, because many of the listeners have heard me say it again and again before. Lubricant isn't regulated, so finding good lubricants that are body safe isn't always the easiest thing to do. So what are 3 to 5 top favorites, and why?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with lube, because it's interesting. At first, sorry for the digression, but there is now FDA approval for lubes that is required if you want to say that your lube is a lubricant, as opposed to, I think you can use some words like body lotion or something.
Yeah.
So, and this happened a few years ago, and it's good and bad. It's good that there's more regulation, in the sense that I think that it made manufacturers have to be more careful. But FDA approval, from what I understand, doesn't have anything really to do with how it feels on your body. Mm-hmm. So correct. Some of my least favorite lubes are, FDA approved, blah, blah, blah. It might still burn your vagina. So I think that, or whatever part. So I think that I take that with a grain of salt.
Right.
It has resulted in some fan favorites not being available in the US, because companies are I'm not going to pay for that FDA approval. But first of all, lube should be everybody's buddy, because no matter if you play with your own self, if you ever have a partner, if you use sex toys, any of these things, any time of sexual contact, pretty much is going to be better with additional lube. It's going to make using safer sex products safer, because it's going to reduce friction. All these things, especially if you were born with a vagina. There's often this stigma that needing lube means you're not turned on, or something wrong with your body, or you should just be so wet that you never need lube,
which is utter bullshit.
It's total bullshit. There's so many things that can affect somebody's lubrication, and so getting comfortable using lube, I think, is really important. Of course, there's certain parts of your body that if you're going to use anal sex, if you're going to play If you're going to engage in anal sex, it's absolutely required to use lube.
Yes.
Sex toys should not be producing lubrication on their own. So, you want to be using that. Anyways, there's a brand called Sliquid that it's very, my computer will never learn that word. It always autocorrects it. But Sliquid is our favorite lube. It's super gentle on the body. It has very few ingredients. It's really, there's a lot of different formulas as far as thickness and other things that you can go for there, but they have a couple really basic formulas that I feel like for water-based lubes, if you've had any negative interactions with another lube, this is a great lube to try. Because a lot of lubes have all kinds of screwy ingredients that can cause irritation. If it says it's supposed to heat up, that means it's going to irritate your genitals so you feel the heat.
Yes.
I get very passionate about lube.
Hey, I maybe you and I need to do like an entire lube episode. I keep threatening this to my listeners because you're right. Like there are ingredients that are made to do things, and it says it on the packaging, but people don't realize. Like, oh no, do you realize what that's going to do to your pH? All of you, no matter what kind of genitalia you got,
right? And don't even get me started on like numbing lubes and tightening. Anyways, yeah. Anyway, so Sliquid, a good water-based gentle lube is a great place to start for anybody. If you want to add equipment, toys to your routine or your life, I'm a really big fan of wand style vibrators. I know it's not the most creative answer, but the original magic wand, formerly known as the Hitachi magic wand, is powerful. It is discreet in the sense that it is technically a back massager, or was intended for that idea. You can get attachments. So while it's a super powerful external stimulator, you can get attachments so that you can use it internally, or if you have a penis, you can use it as a sleeve. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. That said, it is a powerhouse, and not everybody wants a powerhouse.
That's right. My client said, I had a client who said, that's the varsity team.
Yes. And some people go out for varsity freshman year. I don't know if that's a good analogy. And some people keep trying out for varsity and never make it. I don't know. This is a weird
we walked down a weird path. It's all right.
But yes, if you are like a power hungry person, this is a good toy for that. But there are also lots of people who don't want, I've had people come in and be like, what is the gentlest vibrator that you have? I need some old batteries. I'll put them in the wrong way. Never a good idea. But like to make the toys work. So there are some wonderfully textural toys that don't just go, blah, blah, blah. There's one called the Zen, which is, I think, a very appropriate term. And it's battery operated. It's definitely more gentle. It has, various speeds, but it's made, and it's silicone. Everything we carry is body safe. And it's squishy in a way that is just, very delightful. You have to kind of touch it to feel it. It's got a nice squishiness to it. Good for external use, can be used for vaginal use. You wouldn't want to use it anally, but you can use it internally in the front. But, that's another just like sort of other end of the spectrum toy that has versatility and is for someone who likes it more gentle. But there's so many, even 5 would be hard to say. Like if you have a penis, there's these amazing innovations that have been done in the texture of sleeves. Like when I first started the store, it was all about what porn stars genitalia did they, try and recreate.
Did they copy or try to make it look like
mold? Yes. Yeah. And those are still there, but companies are now like, oh wait, let's think about actually how this feels when you put something inside of it. And so Tenga makes some amazing products that just feel super, I don't have a penis, so I can't give you my firsthand account, but like feel on my fingers, and I can tell from, just feel amazing gliding in and out, and I think that that's a really important thing to realize is that, there are toys that only work for certain shapes of genitals, but that regardless of the shape of your genitals, there is something out there that has been thoughtfully designed to help you engage in more pleasure. And that's really, I think, the bottom line is that there's are toys and they're tools, and they're sole purpose is to make you feel better and good, and hopefully give you orgasms if you want that. And so why not take advantage of this entire, type of item and give yourself a little bit of extra love and pleasure and fun. So
I love it. I love everything you were saying. I think maybe the final thing we should just touch on very quickly is that I'm sure that you have heard this myth again and again. I know that I have heard it. It is very much a concern when somebody has ever maybe used a toy for the first time or wants to use a toy. There is this myth of, if I use a toy, then I'll just keep using it and I'll get numb to it, in quotation marks, or I will only be able to have sex this way, or I will become addicted to it, quotation marks. Y'all can't see them, but I'm making them. These are not things that happen. Let's talk about this myth really quick before we wrap up, because I think it's incredibly important to understand.
Try to do it really quick. But yes, this is a myth that I think is, and what I've seen, it has been promoted mainly by cisgender men who don't want women in particular to have sexual agency.
Absolutely.
Yes. If you have a hard time having an orgasm and you start using a sex toy and your orgasms are more achievable, you may get used to that sensation. You may prefer that sensation. That's not addicted. That's not ruined for other things.
Exactly.
And if it means that having a sex toy handy is part of your partner's sex life, find somebody who loves you or likes you enough to want to have that kind of sex with you. Mm-hmm. Most people, if you're spending a lot of extra time with your vibrator, your sex toy, you're getting very used to the sensation, getting a different toy, switching it up, taking a break, those kinds of things can kind of help reset your sexual response a little bit. So we just sort of recommend a vibrator vacation if that's a concern of yours. Mm-hmm. But I try to promote the idea like, who cares? So if you need to have a sex toy with you the rest of your life, great. There's like 1 billion sex toys out there. Lots of them are very portable and you could take with you wherever you go. And if you have a partner that isn't down with you using a sex toy during sex, I think that relationship needs to be examined, because that's a person who does not have your pleasure and your best interests in mind. So it is a myth. It's a myth. It's a myth. It's a myth.
And re-examine those relationships, folks.
Absolutely. If someone throws away your vibrator because they're jealous.
Okay. We need to
the curve. Yeah.
Head to mentalandSexualHealth.com. We'll help you with the therapy part. I'll send you to early to bed. We'll replace it.
Exactly.
How do the lovely humans listening find you in the world?
Well, earlytobed.com, and that's early with the number 2 bed.com is our website where there's shopping as well as lots of good sex information. We have a really cute Instagram at earlytobed. If you just search us, you'll find it. You can find my Instagram, which is a little less cute, but a little more personal, at Searah to bed, and that's spelled SearahTobed. And then, we're on Twitter, Facebook, but who's on Facebook anymore? Right. So we're kind of all out there, and we're very accessible. We love people to email us their questions. We're happy to answer people's questions about sex toys, about, their needs and stuff like that too. So we're not therapists. So, keep that, just remember that. But we are really happy to talk sex toys with anybody, anytime.
Searah, this has just been incredibly lovely. And I thank you so much for coming on the show and everything you heard, folks. I will make sure all the toy suggestions will even be in the show notes so that you can easily find them. Searah, this has been a joy, really. Nerding out about sex toys is that's like a dream day for me.
Well, thank you. This has been a pleasure for me too. I mean, as you can tell, it's what I love to talk about. So thank you so much for having me.
Folks, we thank you for sticking around to the end. We will see you next time.